For more than 5 centuries, it stood exactly where history happened. Wars came and went. Empires rose and collapsed. Ships sailed for distant continents and never returned. And through it all, one pub in England kept pouring pints, lighting fires, and listening to stories that would never make it into history books. The Hole in the Wall was not just a business, it was a witness. Founded in the early 1600s near one of the most important naval ports in Britain, this pub survived plagues, world wars, economic depressions, and cultural revolutions. Generations of sailors drank here before going to sea. Dock workers ended their shifts here. Locals marked weddings, funerals, and retirements inside its thick stone walls. So when news broke that the Hole in the Wall had gone bankrupt and closed for good, it shocked far more than just the local community. How does a business with 500 years of brand equity, foot traffic, and cultural relevance simply disappear? This is not just a story about a pub. It is a story about tradition colliding with modern economics, about heritage facing balance sheets, and about how history alone is no longer enough to survive. But here is where it gets interesting. The Hole in the Wall did not fail overnight. Its collapse was slow, structural, and almost invisible until it was too late. The Hole in the Wall opened its doors during a time when pubs were not optional luxuries, but essential infrastructure. In early modern England, alehouses served as meeting halls, information hubs, and safe places for travelers. Literacy was low. Newspapers barely existed. If you wanted news, work, or connection, you went to the pub. Located in Old Portsmouth, steps away from the harbour, the Hole in the Wall benefited from geography that most modern businesses would kill for. Sailors waited for orders, merchants unloaded cargo, naval officers rotated between missions. The pub sat in the middle of it all. Its name came from a literal hole in the wall of the city fortifications, a narrow passage sailors used to sneak back inside after curfew. The pub became their refuge. Over time, that rebellious spirit became part of its identity. By the 1800s, the Hole in the Wall was thriving. Britain ruled the seas. Portsmouth was booming. The Royal Navy was one of the largest employers in the country. Every deployment meant weeks of heavy drinking. Every return meant celebration. The pub did not scale. It did not franchise. It did not modernize. And for centuries, it did not need to. Chapter 2. The Peak. The 20th century should have been the Hole in the Wall's golden era. 2 world wars brought waves of soldiers and sailors through Portsmouth. During World War II, bombs fell nearby. Buildings were destroyed and entire streets vanished. The Hole in the Wall survived. That survival cemented its legendary status. Tourists came to see a pub that outlived air raids. Locals treated it like a historical monument you could drink inside. Guidebooks mentioned it. Photos circulated. The brand value was immense even if the owners never thought of it that way. By the 1980s and the 1990s, the pub was packed most nights. It leaned into tradition. Low ceilings, wooden beams, no music screens, no gimmicks. Just beer, conversation, and history. From the outside, it looked immortal. Now you might be thinking that a place like this could never fail, but the seeds of collapse were already being planted. Please subscribe to our channel. We want to hit 5,000 subscribers. Now let's move on with the video. The first crack came from regulation. Alcohol laws tightened. Licensing costs rose. Health and safety requirements increased. Insurance premiums climbed year after year. A modern bar could absorb these costs through volume, branding, and pricing power. A small historic pub could not. Then came shifting consumer behavior. Younger generations drank less alcohol. Pub visits became occasional rather than routine, and drinking moved from community spaces into private homes. Tourism helped, but tourism is seasonal. Winter nights grew quieter. Fixed costs did not shrink just because customers stayed home. The building itself became a liability. Thick stone walls meant expensive repairs. Ancient plumbing failed regularly. Accessibility upgrades were required by law, and they were incredibly difficult to implement in a protected historic structure. And here is the brutal truth: history does not pay invoices. Every year, the hole in the wall needed more money just to stand still. The final blow was not one event, but a convergence. Rising energy prices, higher wages, post-pandemic shifts in hospitality economics, rent increased, supplier contracts became less favorable, beer margins shrank while costs soared. Attempts were made to adapt, food offerings expanded, opening hours shifted, events were tested, but every change risked alienating the very customers who loved the pub for what it was. This is the paradox of heritage businesses. Change too little and you die slowly. Change too much and you erase the reason people cared in the first place. Cash flow tightened, repairs were delayed, staff turnover increased. Then one winter, the numbers simply stopped working. The math no longer lied. After 5 centuries, the hole in the wall could not pay its bills. It entered bankruptcy, and then it closed, forever. When the doors shut, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Locals mourned, headlines spread, social media filled with photos and memories. But nostalgia did not reopen the pub. The building remains, the story remains, but the business is gone. Not because people did not care, but because caring does not equal sustainability. Today, the hole in the wall exists as a lesson more than a location. Hole in the wall is now a symbol of what happens when cultural value and economic reality drift too far apart. So what does the collapse of a 500-year-old pub really tell us? It tells us that longevity is not a strategy. It tells us that brand heritage must evolve or it becomes an anchor. And it tells us that no business is too old to fail. Modern capitalism does not reward history, it rewards adaptation. The hole in the wall survived wars, fires, and bombings, but it could not survive spreadsheets. That is the uncomfortable truth. We like to believe that some places are timeless, that certain institutions will always be there. But time does not protect you from economics. If anything, it makes the fall more shocking. The hole in the wall did not go bankrupt because it lost relevance. It went bankrupt because relevance alone was not enough. And in a world where costs rise faster than sentiment, even legends can disappear quietly, one unpaid bill at a time. So the next time you walk into an old pub, cafe, or family-run business that has been there forever, remember this story. Forever is not guaranteed, not even after 500 years. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. We want to hit 5,000 subscribers.